All right, let's get right to it. We'll start right here in Carolina. The Panthers are 4-3. They welcome in the Falcons that are 2-5. What can we expect out of this game?
Well, this is a game that I think Panthers fans are expecting. That you have the Falcons in free fall. This is a game that the Panthers should win. They've been better at winning those type of games of late. Obviously, they're not fans of the Falcons. No love lost between these teams. So it's an important game. It's a division game. Come out like they did against the Buccaneers. They should feel good about their chances. The Falcons are injury-riddled here. Offensively and defensively, the matchups are really good for the Panthers in this game.
Who would you say this game hurts more? If the Panthers lose, is there a shot at getting that wild card spot into the playoffs out? Or if the Falcons lose, does this completely end their season?
I think the Falcons are pretty much at that breaking point already, just with their injuries and what's coming up on their schedule. For the Panthers, there's a couple tough games with San Francisco and New England, and you figure New Orleans there. So they need all these type of games that they should win, because the wild card race is going to be pretty tight with Detroit in the mix there, Chicago, and out there with Arizona, who beat the Panthers.
It looks like Jonathan Stewart's going to make his season debut Sunday against Atlanta. How do you think he's going to play?
I think they're looking at a more muddled timeshare here with how many touches he gets in the mix with the other two guys, and Mike Tolbert being valuable as that third down goal line type guy. So I think they're going to work in Stewart slowly into this mix, as they've always done with this team, with the committee that they have, that they can afford mixing in guys as they need to and still be effective running the ball.
He's earned the nickname Riverboat Ron here for his gambling decisions he's made on the field. Do you think his job is still in question if this team doesn't make the playoffs this year?
I think it's still in question. There's a lot of football ahead, and we know where they were last year, and there has to be a bit of a significant improvement. And I think now that the tone is set that there might be the expectation of getting a wild card, now you kind of have to meet that. That's pretty much every coach's challenge, is meeting whatever expectation is laid forth by the organization, the general manager going forward. And I think there's definitely an expectation with the way they're playing now that they should be right there in front of the wild card mix.
Moving around the NFC South, we talk about another coaching job that's probably on his way out. It's Greg Schiano in Tampa. We were having the debate earlier on the show. Do you think Greg Schiano gets fired during the season, or does it happen at the end of the season?
I think it kind of happens right after the season, and right after that happens, I think you're going to find him land a college job somewhere. I think the team I have circled at the University of Connecticut, it seems like that type of job is what's waiting for him, and I think he'll be happier there, where he can do the controlling things he did in college and at a smaller program rather than an NFL team with pro players.
Two names are going to immediately come up if that coaching job becomes available. One of them is Bill Cowher. The other one is John Gruden. We were also debating this earlier. Would John Gruden come back to Tampa to coach again?
It depends on what they give him and what he likes, because he's got a pretty good job right now. It's a lot less stressful than being a head coach and getting up at 4 in the morning like he used to do with the Raiders and Buccaneers. So I think for him it's all about the quarterback and offense. Can he feel like he can mold something there? If it's not Mike Glennon, if someone else can be brought in for him to groom in that offense, I think it's definitely a challenge that you would have to think about.
You move back around the NFC South. Are you convinced that the Saints at 6-1 are the real deal?
Oh, definitely. They're the real deal. And what's impressed me most is how Rob Ryan has come in there and changed their defensive culture back to what we're used to from the Saints. Very aggressive, getting the sacks, turnovers, really complementing their offense, which is also aggressive now back with Sean Payton. So you see them kind of rounding into the form we've seen when in their Super Bowl year 2006 as well.
The NFC East, in my opinion, is the most watched drama right now in the NFL. Dallas is 4-4, Philly's 3-5. The Redskins and Giants both have 2 wins. How do you see this division finishing out?
I still like Dallas's chances here. I know they're an up-and-down team that frustrates a lot of people around 500 with their talent level, but you look at what they've done so far in the first half of the season. They've beaten all the other teams in the division. You're not confident what Philadelphia can do. Washington is having a whole bunch of issues, and the Giants are still trying to find their way out of a hole. So looking at the Cowboys, they're still the best in a bad division.
Are you one of the many writers who watched Des Bryant Sunday night and thought that he was exploding and then heard the audio Monday morning and realized it was something different?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Des and it's just him talking. I think the focus is so much on the Cowboys and anything the Cowboys do, and I think the timing was bad in terms of what was happening in the game and the results and going up and down. So the Cowboys are always going to be the center of tension, good or bad or misunderstood.
Moving to the NFC West, Seattle is on top at 7-1, but the 49ers are 6-2. Are they the real deal in it, or do you see Seattle winning this division?
I still like Seattle. I think you're going to look at a round robin here for the number one seed in the NFC. They both have to play the Saints, the 49ers and Seahawks, and then one gets them at home, that's Seattle. So I think that could be a big difference, and it's going to come down to their head-to-head matchup the second time around. And I think Seattle having the one-game edge and better home matchups, I think that gives them the edge overall for number one.
Moving to AFC outside of Denver, who really stands out to you?
Well, you look at Kansas City, but you really have questions about how many points they can score at a key point against the Broncos and any other team, because it's going to take in scoring in the 20s with Alex Smith. And then Cincinnati just had a tough loss and a tougher injury there with Geno Atkins. So the AFC is pretty weak overall, so you still like Denver's chances here. New England is always a threat, even when they're struggling, just because Tom Brady can get hot at any point.
We'll say Denver and Kansas City obviously both make the playoffs, I'm assuming, so Kansas City being undefeated. Who gets Coach of the Year out of those two between Andy Reid and John Fox?
I think it's definitely Andy Reid. With Coach of the Year, it's always an award about not what you have, but what you didn't have last year and what you did to turn your team around. Even if you've got the talent and you win as expected, you don't seem to win that award. But Andy Reid turning a team around that much, it's a slam dunk favorite to win that award.
What does it mean if Andy Reid wins a Super Bowl, let's say, this year with the Kansas City Chiefs?
It would mean that it's going to be the most remarkable turnaround story in the NFL. It already is in pro sports. We've never seen this before. Team with the worst record come out 8-0 in the next season. So it's already on a historic level, but that would be quite epic if he can turn them into a Super Bowl winner from what they were last year.
I definitely agree. It would definitely be epic. The Bengals are 6-3. They were spooked last night by the Dolphins. I read your article. You said the most chilling feeling, though, for them was Geno Atkins. He's out for the season. What does that mean for them?
Well, he's just a game changer in the fact that you got to account for him on every play, whether you're running the ball or trying to drop back and pass, because he's such a disruptive force in the interior, and you just can't make up for his production. There's just no player in the NFL that can control that and get in the quarterback space the way he can. And when you look at Peyton Manning as your biggest adversary and not having your best pass rusher head-to-head in the playoffs, that's going to be tough.
We're speaking with Vinny Iyer, NFL writer for Sporting News.
Gio Bernard has been looking very good this year as a rookie running back for the Bengals, second-round draft pick. Do you think he'll win Rookie of the Year?
It's going to be tough because you got Eddie Lacy there for Green Bay, and Green Bay is obviously a higher profile team that is everyone is talking about more on a regular basis. So I think that's going to be the tricky thing. Eddie Lacy's looked fantastic. The guy that's kind of sneaking behind him is Andre Ellington, the running back of Arizona. So there are a lot of good rookie running backs coming through. You can also talk about Dacey coming on for the St. Louis Rams. So it's been a good class so far. It's going to be a tough competition between those guys, but Lacy and Bernard head-to-head down the stretch will be fun to watch.
Looking at the Jaguars, Justin Blackmon was suspended today indefinitely for substance abuse. How long do you see him being out now?
It's going to be tough for him to get back into the game for a while because the NFL, they don't like you to do this once, but if you do it more than twice, which dating back to college, it's happened for Justin Blackmon, it's just very difficult because there are going to be a lot of things he's going to have to do and meet with Roger Goodell and go through certain processes to convince not only the NFL but his team, the Jaguars, that he's not going to do this again. And I think that's a tough road ahead for him. And on top of that, he's going to have to find some kind of help off the field as well.
with all the issues the Jaguars having surrounding them, with tickets not being able sold and they're winless this year and so forth, how much longer do they put up with Justin Blackman stuff for?
When you're looking to change the image and culture of a franchise, and this is your biggest black mark, and that's what they're known for right now. I mean, other than having a winless season, it's now about the Justin Blackman situation. That's why they're being talked about for no other reason. So if that's a guy that's a troublemaker and a consistent problem with the image of an already struggling franchise on the field, you got to move away from him off the field.
We're giving out midseason awards tonight on the show. For the MVP for you, who would you give it to outside of Peyton Manning?
Well, I think a guy that's coming on strong slowly is Drew Brees. I mean, his numbers are not that bad, really, in relation to Peyton Manning's in terms of where their team's at and how they've been so successful. And you see that he's just going to get better as his receivers get healthier here. So that's a guy to watch for sure. And then the other one you have to look at just for the pure dominance alone is Calvin Johnson. I mean, if he keeps putting up some ridiculous numbers week after week and build on the great numbers he had last season and the Lions make the playoffs, I think it's going to be hard to ignore the impact one receiver can have on a team.
We're speaking with Vinny Iyer, NFL writer for Sporting News. Give me a Super Bowl prediction right now, halfway through the season.
Well, I'm going to stick with the one I had before the season because it still looks pretty good. I like the Seattle Seahawks beating the Broncos because it comes down to me. Offense is going to get you so far, but you're going to have some defense to win it in the end. Seahawks, to me, are the scariest defense to face in a matchup like that, and they can do a little bit offensively with Russell Wilson.
What's a must-watch game this weekend?
I think it's going to be Packers-Bears. There's not a great game on the schedule that shout at you too much, but I think you look at Packers-Bears, just classic rivalry. I know the Bears with Josh McCown may not be the greatest looking team, but they're still above 500. It's still a rivalry game, and they're going to give the Packers a very good game.
Look forward to reading more of your stuff, Vinny. What is the story you're working right now on for Sporting News?
Well, just looking around the league in midseason, we have our all-bargain team, guys that are making less than $1 million at every position that are standout players. So it was fun to put up together that list, kind of what you would do in a small market if there was such a thing in the NFL.
Does Russell Wilson lead that list?
Definitely. I mean, he's the bargain until he maybe wins a Super Bowl, and they're going to have to pay him a lot more, and he doesn't become a bargain. But that's one thing. You better enjoy these guys while you're not paying them much, because when they come through like this, you're going to have to pay up pretty big.
Oh, yeah, you got everybody there. Richard Seymour, him, they're going to be paying out. They'll definitely be paying out for those guys. Before we let you go, we do a thing on the show here. It's called Last Call. The way it works is basically a shout-out to anything. It doesn't have to be sports-related, but it can be. What would be your last call, Vinny Iyer?
Well, my last call is going to be, I'm excited about some movies that are coming around the corner. I'm a kind of a comic book person, so Thor is coming out, Captain America, but I saw the trailer for the new X-Men. I'm really excited about that. It's unfortunate I got to wait all the way through next summer for that to come out, but just excited about the movie season, and that's my favorite time of the year when all the good movies come out.
When does the Thor come out?
I think it comes out next Friday. Yeah, next Friday. So that's the first of them, and then we can get geeked up and build up to next summer. So that's always good.
Vinny Iyer, I'm sure you'll be at Thor next week. My co-host Adam Blake seems like he'll be there too. Thanks for joining us, man. We hope we hook up with you at the end of the season, all right?
All right, thank you.